Everybody, wake up. It's Ravens training camp day 2.
You're watching Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe for more Ravens content.
What is going on, Purple Rain Podcast family? We are checking in early in the morning. That's right, an early morning stream of Quiet Storm Sports because I got some things to say that I didn't really talk about yesterday in yesterday's stream. Shout out to you if you checked that out. If you have not already, please do. But there were some things I did want to bring to you guys' attention, Ravens Flock family, my Rain Gang family as well. Shout out to everybody who's here watching right now live. Please be sure to leave a like on this early morning stream. We'd appreciate that. And also, I do want to say a special shout out to the replay gang. Special shout out to the replay gang. Thank y'all so much for coming through to these episodes and watching after the live streams are already over. But like I said, we've got some things to get into that I didn't touch on yesterday. So I want to start with that. Wayne Drummond is in the house. What's going on, Wayne Drummond? Salute to you. Good morning. Good morning, brother. Okay. So yesterday I talked at length about, of course, the Nnamdi Madubuike news. He's back in the fold now. It's looking like he's going to be a week 1 starter against the Indianapolis Colts, which good luck to their offensive line, even though I know it is good. I think it's going to be a very, very good battle between the Colts O-line and the Ravens D-line in week 1. That's probably the biggest matchup I'm going to be looking out for. Very early prediction there, I know, but that's what it's shaping up to be, a big heavyweight fight down low in the trenches, right? Drewski89 is in the chat, says, you're up mad early, Sudden. I am. It is 5 a.m. here in Texas, but we are here. I had to get some things off my chest. You guys see I got my coffee and everything this morning. You guys see my Spider-Man mug? My Spider-Man mug, listen. New Spider-Man tomorrow. I don't know if y'all going to see it, but your boy is, okay? I don't play. Anywho, back to this Ravens talk. I talked a lot about Madubuike. That's going to be great for going into the season, especially if he is 100%. I think his tape from yesterday in training camp, you can tell they're really just trying to take things super slow. They're trying to take things super duper slow. And, we're still, what is it? It's almost August. It's basically August now. We're still about a month and a half away. We're still about a good 45 days away from actual football being played, regular season, that is, right? So I think that he should be fine, Nnamdi. Like, I figure by the time that preseason is over, he'll be ramping up. He'll probably end up starting the season. And this is just pure speculation, by the way. I would say maybe like 80%. There's no way that Nnamdi is like 100% right now, or else they wouldn't be being so cautious with him. And maybe they're just doing that naturally because the nature of the injury, but we'll just have to wait and see. Nero Psych Sports, good morning, brother. Go Ravens. Hadari Alu, good morning, son. What's going on? Appreciate you for coming through as well. Thank you. Make sure, again, you like the video on your way in. Early morning edition of Quiet Storm Sports. We're going to have ourselves a good time on this episode. And don't worry, listen, I know the information in this video will probably be irrelevant pretty soon because day 2 of training camp starts in maybe like 4 or 5 hours, I'd say. But of course, worry not. We will be back later today on the Purple Rain Podcast main pod at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Me and Alex will be breaking down day 1 and day 2 of Ravens training camp at length in full. So make sure you stick around for that because listen, I know it's going to be a lot of content coming out and, may get a little bit overwhelming, but you got to understand, we back now. Not like we ever left, but you get my point. But yeah, I talked yesterday about Nnamdi, and then also I see Drewski says in the chat here, Bateman's going to bounce back for show. Let me just take a little sip of my coffee on that one. You know what's crazy about Rashad Bateman? What's crazy about Rashad Bateman is that after 1 day of training camp, I'm already seeing the narrative start to shift, right? Has anybody else noticed that? Because Rashad Bateman was a standout yesterday in training camp. He had a couple good connections with Lamar. Of course, the main one was the one that the Ravens posted on their social media, where he goes deep down the field to him. Rashad Bateman high points the ball over the shoulder catch, by the way, beat the defender deep. It was a highlight play. It was the highlight of the day, pretty much. So after that, I see a lot of people, in the Twitter streets and in the Reddit streets and all that good stuff. They're all like, "Oh, Rashad Bateman, he's gonna bounce back. I think he's fine as our wide receiver too. I think in Declan Doyle's offense, he's gonna benefit the most." It's like, oh. So your boy Sutton wasn't crazy. Just saying. I don't know. We'll see if he has a back-to-back good performance today in day 2 of Ravens training camp. That's going to be somebody I'm looking out for as well. All the beat writers and whoever's out there. If you're going to the practice, make sure you get some film. Make sure you scout a little bit. Yeah. And maybe send it to me. Yeah. If you're going. Anywho, I talked a lot about Bateman. Who else did we talk about yesterday? You had Danny Pinter taking most of the starting reps at center for the day 1 of training camp. But I do expect today you're probably going to see Ethan Posick get more of those reps. And I think they'll probably just end up like alternating. So maybe the next practice is Javon Gwynn. We'll see. We'll see. They're truly saying that they're calling it like, hey, look, it's an even competition and the best man wins. So we'll see if that ends up living up to or coming to fruition. Because I think it's still Ethan Posick's job to lose, personally. I do. Point says up and Adam. I say we up early today. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Hit the like button, hype the stream. Points on point. Hit the like button, hype the stream. Appreciate y'all for coming through again. Okay. So, some of the things I wanted to get into today in this preview episode of Ravens Training Camp Day 2 are some things I didn't talk about. So, for one, veteran wide receiver Chris Moore had multiple impressive plays and he stood out during practice. I think I did mention that. We mentioned Adam Randall flashing with a couple of sharp cuts that generated excitement among attendees. We mentioned that. But I didn't mention rookie wide receiver Jacoby Lane created separation on an intermediate route and picked up about a 15-yard gain, which is an encouraging sign for the rookie, especially this early on. Day 1 of training camp, and Jacoby Lane made himself known. He made himself a play, right? So, I mean, that's big. Drift Sports, top of the morning to you as well, brother. But that's big. Jacoby Lane is a guy who, of course, the Ravens drafted in the 3rd round. He has been getting a slew of media attention. He's basically a media darling without even having played a snap in the NFL. The NFL wants to push this kid. We know that. And by the way, he does also give me like Spider-Man vibes with the way he acts. No? Mm. But that aside, I do think that him getting separation this early, which a lot of people said would be his pain point, something he would struggle with. I think that that's a good sign, a very, very good sign. Now, I wish I could have known who exactly it was who was in coverage against him. It doesn't. The post that I'm reading doesn't mention that, unfortunately. However, it's still a good sign. So that's one guy, Jacoby Lane, I'm looking forward to. Because here's the thing. Since Jacoby is a 3rd round pick and since he is a media darling, and since like Cordell Woodland told me a couple of weeks ago, they are being a little bit more intentional about trying to work him into the system as a 3rd round pick, basically Declan Doyle's baby. Since he, drafted him, he was the first drafted wide receiver in the Declan Doyle era and the Jesse Minter era for that matter. They're going to get this kid the ball. And then also, again, the media as well are just swooning. I mean, they're jonesing for a Jacoby Lane highlight in training camp. So they can post that all over their social media. They're going to plaster it everywhere. Even the NFL will probably pick it up, right? So I do expect for Lamar Jackson to eventually test Jacoby Lane downfield, and I'm hoping we see that today. Him throwing a deep ball one-on-one to Jacoby where Maybe there's some tight coverage, but Jacoby in his 6'5" frame just comes down with it. And his 10-inch hands, which are bigger than like 99% of the league, he just comes down with it. We'll see. We'll have to see. But I didn't mention that yesterday that Jacoby Lane had a nice catch, intermediate catch over the middle, that picked up about a 15-yard gain. So first down for Jacoby. So continue to grow that confidence. Please continue to grow that confidence, Jacoby. Stretch 626. What's going on, Stretch? Appreciate you for coming through. We got a member in the chat. Shout out to the members of the channel. Shout out to all the members of the channel. Let me see. Drift Sports says we need another book for Lane 2. Many fans were second guessing the pick. I got crown sandwiches ready. Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Drift, when we drafted Jacoby Lane, I didn't like it as much as I do now, only because I saw we drafted Elijah Surratt in the 4th round. And I thought my thinking process was, why don't we just go one receiver and then we draft a center of the future as well? And then maybe after the draft, if we feel like we don't have enough, we can go and we can pursue a vet. Maybe then I would have been more, amenable to a Stephon Diggs signing or amenable to a Keenan Allen or maybe even a D-Hop reunion. So I wasn't as high on it either. But as the offseason has gone along and, I'm seeing how, especially now in training camp and even in mini camp, what these guys can really bring to the table, I'm liking it a little bit more. So again, Jacoby Lane's a guy who I'm really looking forward to seeing today and the rest of training camp for sure. Drift Sport says, I hit the thumbs up. Did you? Did you? Did you hit that thumbs up? Because if not, go ahead and take care of that for me. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thea Pino, what's going on, my boy? All the way from France, ain't it? What's up, Purple Rain gang? Not gonna lie, I'm very hyped for this season. I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. I have not been this excited for a Baltimore Ravens season in, sheesh, man. It's tough. It's tough, man. Probably since, I'd say, going into the 2024 season. That doesn't quite match this level of excitement because going into the 2024 season, we had Derrick Henry for the first time. So it was going to be Lamar, Derrick Henry, and that was supposed to be just unstoppable, like Shaq and Kobe. And largely it was, right? The Ravens, of course, just fell short in the playoffs in 2024. But no, this season, everything feels different. Everything feels different. There's no reason to, outside of just outside of just everything being kind of like an unknown, there's no reason to worry that the Ravens will look like the same old Ravens, like with John Harbaugh leading them. Even the players are telling you, hey, look, this is like a breath of fresh air for us. We feel like a totally new team. We got new coaches, we got new players, we got new jerseys. Like, we're cooking. We're cooking. I can't wait. Let me see. I want Lane to be our 1 or 2 for real. I mean, eventually, I can agree. I would love to have that big body X receiver who you can ask him to do whatever you need him to do. I think Jacoby Lane, if he put on just a tad bit more weight, like just a tiny bit more weight, he could be so to give him kind of like that Megatron type of frame, not comparing the two at all, of course, but like in terms of like frame and like size and stuff like that, or like the Anquan Bolden, because like if he can be physical, because it's going to require a lot of blocking here in this offense, that's for sure. But if he can be physical, like, say on these routes where Lamar Jackson, or in these plays rather, where Lamar Jackson is play action, he boots out to the left, right? And you're asking Jacoby Lane to, run up 5 yards, get hands on his defender, on his DB, and then cut in, right, off the play action, and Lamar Jackson could just kind of find him. I think on plays like that, you're going to need to see some physicality out of him. So I'm hoping that the coaches, the receiver coaches and all that, they're really kind of like emphasizing that for Jacoby. Hey, look, like we got to get you strong. We got to get you more physical because especially in this AFC North, man, they are going to try to jam you and shut you down that way. You're not even going to give Lamar Jackson a chance to think that you're open, you know? So, got to get more physical. That's for sure. Thea Pinel, perfect transition here. Thea Pinel says, how do you guys feel about the tight end room, though? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked, Thea Pinel. Because moving on from Jacoby Lane and getting into the tight ends, yesterday you had a report that rookie tight end Matthew Hibner had a very difficult first practice. Okay. He was credited with 2 bobbles yesterday, including 1 drop, making it a huge learning experience for the young tight end, which is a fact. Okay. So Matthew Hibner, you know, first day out, rookie, he didn't look good, which is a little bit concerning. Although not really, because it's only day 1 of training camp, right? You can't expect all these rookies who this is their first time and like with some actual NFL action. You can't expect them to all just ball out and look like superstars. That's not realistic. I understand that. However, he's going to be somebody who I have a very, very close magnifying glass on today. He's actually in the thumbnail of this video, Matthew Hibner. So I got my eye very, very close watching on Matthew Hibner today. I need to see him take another step forward. I need to see him start catching some of these passes with confidence. I need to see him ripping it upfield. Didn't really hear much about Cuevas, at least not yet. But Matthew Hibner had a tough day yesterday, and I just think that in this Declan Doyle offense that loves to run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, so 2 and 3 tight end sets, you're going to need somebody who's reliable for Lamar. You know, when plays break down or whatever, and Mark Andrews isn't open because they're game planning for him, and Smythe is blocking in line. Hibner, we're gonna need you. Those seam routes. I mean, he was doing it in college. I mean, SMU, I believe he went to. He was doing it in college. I just think he has a little bit right now of the NFL jitters, like, oh shit, I'm here. Just a little bit of the NFL rookie jitters. He's like, I'm in the NFL. You know, got to pick it up though. Got to pick it up because it can't just be Mark. It cannot just be Mark Andrews because, as everybody knows, like the entire league still fears Mark Andrews, right? And maybe not fans because fans know like what happened in the playoffs in 2024 and stuff like that, but like defensive coordinators know who Mark Andrews is and they want to game plan for him. You know, he's one of the guys like top 3 or 4 guys on that offense that you have to game plan for. Matthew Hibner can kind of get lost in translation. So we're going to need him to come up with some big plays when he's open. Again, maybe on some of these seams, maybe on some of these crossing routes. He's going to have to make himself available and reliable to Lamar Jackson. Got to bounce back today, though, in training camp. For sure. For sure. Joey says, love the channel. Ravens all day. Appreciate you, Joey. Thank you for coming through. Good morning, Zeke. Yep. Yeah, damn, the NFL's fast. That's how Hibner's feeling. Real quick, God's favor says Bateman's problem has always been consistency. So first day standout doesn't surprise me, to be honest. And I ain't worried about Hibby after 1 day. That's fair. Both fair takes. You know, it's only 1 day of training camp. But I want to see who's stacking days. Today is about who is stacking days and who's bouncing back. Who's stacking days, who's bouncing back, who's regressing. I think that's how I'm going to frame tonight's episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I think that's a good idea. We're gonna categorize all these players, all these different players. Let me see. So, don't forget to join the Rain Gang, like the video, and subscribe. Every new sub equals a live emote on the screen, as do all super chat donations and all that good stuff too. You guys know that. Let me see. Neuropsych Sports says, I think Jalen Hawkins will have the same impact Corey Graham had for us in 2012, 2013. All right, so that's another point that I wanted to get to. I wanted to get to Jalen Hawkins as well, because Kyle Hamilton actually had some praise for Jalen Hawkins. He says the defense's early communication was led by Jalen Hawkins. He's already making calls like he's been in the system for much longer. Mm. So what does this mean? What does this mean? I said this yesterday on Coach's channel, and shout out to Coach. If you have Jalen Hawkins and Malachi Starks as like your angels in the outfield, shout out to those who know, and they're just holding it down out there, and that gives Jesse Minter and then also Kyle Hamilton the opportunity to just wreak havoc on defenses, because, like we like to call Kyle Hamilton the chess piece. I can see Kyle Hamilton lining up anywhere on this defense. He can line up over the slot receiver as a nickel, right? He can line up off the edge at like the 9 technique and just threaten you rushing. He can mug up the A gap and then drop back out in the coverage, or actually blitz and run over your guard like he did to Wyatt Teller last year, I believe. It's just having that guy, having Kyle Hamilton as free as he can be. Again, this is all an ode to Jalen Hawkins, Malachi Starks holding it down in the back end, right? And communicating and making sure that they're good in that regard too, because that's important. Guys were not communicating last season, or they were, but they were like just kind of scrambling and just like not knowing what the hell to do, and just last second just saying, F it, we're gonna just read and react. And we're not gonna be, proactive. We're gonna be reactive. But Kyle Hamilton, again, being able to play as freely as he can, when you also have to worry, like, that's the thing, man. Quarterbacks are not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to worry about what's going on the defensive line, in terms of Matabike coming after him, in terms of Travis Jones coming after him, in terms of Zion Young, Trey Hendrickson, Mike Green coming after him. They're not going to be able to worry about that. Calais Campbell at like 6'6" or whatever, clogging up passing lanes over the middle. They're not going to be able to worry about that. Want to know why? Because the most important piece, the most dangerous piece of the defense, the most potent part of the defense is Kyle Hamilton, number 14. So think about just how many things you have to worry about as an opposing quarterback. And need I remind you guys, going into the season, you're gonna have all that talent, and with that new scheme and Jesse Minter, you're gonna have all that on defense going up against the likes of Daniel Jones, going up against who's it gonna be, Michael Penix or Tua Tagovailoa when we play the Falcons, or hell, maybe it's Cooper Rush. I think they just signed him. Cam Ward, right? Tyler Shuck. Are they going to be able to deal with all of that on defense? And that's just in the first 5-6 weeks. That's in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season who we play. I just don't see those young quarterbacks being able to deal with everything Baltimore's going to be able to throw at them. I just don't. So, glad to hear that Jalen Hawkins is doing his thing. Love to hear that. Let me see here. I'm worried Hawkins will ball out and leave Malachi lost in the sauce. No, I'm not worried about that at all, Nero. I'm not worried about that at all. I think that Malachi Starks really started to play well towards the end of last season. And with Jesse Minter here, who does really, really well with DBs in general, I think Malachi Starks is going to have a very, very good year. Give me a good. I'll take 5 interceptions for Malachi Starks. I think he has a breakout season, just because of how much havoc is going to be wreaked up front, and teams are going to get desperate. Quarterbacks are going to get desperate. Hey, I'm down 20 late in the third quarter. I gotta let this ball go. I don't care if Kyle Hamilton's in my face. I don't care if Matabike is barreling me down. I I gotta let go of this ball. And just like there's gonna be a lot of prayers and meatball subs launched into the secondary. And I think Malachi Starks will be the beneficiary of some of those. I do think Jalen Hawkins is the more physical safety, better tackler. We'll see how Malachi Starks has improved with that in his game. Hot Boy says one thing that stood out to me about Declan Doyle is his confidence. Yeah, he has way more confidence than what you would expect a 29 or maybe he's 30 now. You would expect him to have somebody that young as an offensive coordinator, coaching up guys who are right around his age. You would expect him to be a little bit more shy, timid, not as vocal. He'd be more, like personable and stuff like that. But no, he is commanding this offense. He's taking the bull by the horns, and I love to see it. I love to see it. You know what I also love to see? You liking the video. If you just got in here, make sure you leave a like on the video. If you've been in here for a while, you're enjoying what you're listening to, go ahead and leave a like there. It helps us out a ton here at PRP. And again, we will be live later today again, recapping day 1 and day 2 of Ravens training camp on our main podcast at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's probably the best way to look at it and keep track, because that's likely how the coaches are looking at stack days, standouts. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing later on the show, for sure. That's definitely what we're doing. All right. Read a couple of you guys' live chat comments here. Don DeWan, what's going on? My prediction: the top 4 DBs are going to have a near equal amount of picks due to scheming. Okay, so top 4 DBs in general on this team are, in order, Kyle Hamilton. It's gonna be Nate Wiggins second. Right now, right now, I probably put Cheeto over Marlowe, to be honest with you, but you can flip flop those. So Cheeto Marlowe or Marlowe Cheeto, those are probably the top 4 as of right now. Malachi Starks could probably get in there too, but I would love to see that. I mean, if this entire defense is eating like that, hey, look, I still want Jesse Minter to introduce a turnover chain, right? Like I don't care if you think it's childish. Oh, that's for college. No, 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 no. I mean, we want to do things the right way. Mike Mickens was just at Notre Dame. He understands that college atmosphere and like what that type of stuff does. Give me a turnover chain for my defense, man, and maybe we will start seeing a lot more turnovers, and them spread out as well. And maybe it doesn't even have to be a chain. Maybe it can be like I don't know, maybe make it Raven centric or something like that, or make it like a chain with like a gold talon, a gold and purple talon. That'd be tough. The players would love it too. Players would love it. The league would love it. Imagine bringing turnover chain culture to the NFL. Why not? Why not us? I don't care. We don't got to be like everybody else. Let me see. Drift Sport says, with Teddy still on the shelf, I believe the new system will unlock Trenton Simpson. Owe blew up. Why not Trenton? That's a good point. That's a good point. It just depends on where they put him. It depends on where they put him, because I don't see Trenton Simpson getting a whole lot of opportunities to rush off the edge. And I know that's something that he did pretty well at Clemson, but with Mike Green and Tavius, and sometimes they'll probably put Zion out there, and then of course Trey Hendrickson. I just don't see him having that many opportunities. Now blitzing just like straight up the middle as a inside linebacker, maybe you will see, some different techniques, because that's one thing. I will say this. Jesse Minter is very good at manufacturing pressure just from his front four. Just from his front four. With like different picks and stunts and things like that. And a lot of guys get through the line scot-free because of that manufactured pressure. And I could see plays where Trenton Simpson is just dialed up on You know, just a straight up blitz. Just straight up blitz right through the A gap. It should be open by the time you get up there, and you just get after the quarterback. And he's got the speed to run down a quarterback. And now all of a sudden you've got these edges like Trey Hendrickson and Mike Green, who, if you're seeing interior pressure and you try to flush out to the left or right, say hello to Hendrickson. Say hello to Mike Green. Mike Green, by the way, ran down Lamar Jackson. They had to blow the play dead because Lamar Jackson could not beat him around the corner. So Mike Green's looking good too. And by the way, about Teddy Buchanan, I don't know exactly what his timetable is. Chat, I don't, because the last I heard about Teddy was from Eric DaCosta, I believe, a couple of weeks ago to the date, where he was saying that, he's had an amazing recovery and things are looking great for him. And so I was under the impression that he'd probably be back for maybe not the start of training camp, but at some point. We'll just have to see. But no rush. No rush. Because I like Trenton Simpson too. I do. OG Sean, what up? Good morning. Says, to be honest, we're going to be put to the test very early against the Vikings in training camp. Really going to see what's up then. Oh yeah, I forgot about these joint practices. Forgot about these joint practices. I think we have the Vikings and I think we also have the Commanders, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have the Vikings and the Commanders. Yeah, that should show us a lot. That should show us where this team is at. Because it's gonna be a lot of 11 on 11 and stuff like that, where you're not gonna see that necessarily in the preseason games. That's why I love the joint practices, because you get to see like actual starters, or at least you get to hear about it. You can read the reports, right? Actual starters versus actual starters. Okay, who was getting the best of each other? That's why I love the joint practices, because in preseason it's like, okay, 95% of starters are not playing at all, right? And by the third quarter, it's just all guys who are trying to get a job, basically. Let me see. Alec Pierce will be the challenge in week 1. We got this though. Yeah, I can agree. He'll be tough, but I think that's going to be Nate Wiggins all day. It's going to be Nate Wiggins' job all day. At least I would want it to be. Especially like Nate said, he said he's 100% now. Okay, I need you step for step with Alec Pierce. This is test number 1. And I think it's a great first test. Alec Pierce is nice, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a great first test for Nate Wiggins to gain some confidence, especially going into because week 2 I think we have the Saints, so he'll probably guard Alec Pierce for the most time week 1, then probably Chris Olave week 2, right? Week 3, when it's CD and Pickens in Brazil, I don't know. That's like a pick your poison kind of matchup. We'll see who he gets put on for that. We'll see. All right. Let me scroll down, catch up on some of these comments. Nero says, what role do you think Chandler Rivers can play for us this year? He's a sleeper. Chandler Rivers, I didn't really hear too much about him yesterday either, but I think that you're going to see Chandler Rivers do some things because he's very smart, very intuitive, right? He's going to be one of those kind of like, for example, I think I said this last week. I could see him on like some cornerback blitzes and things like that, where you're not expecting that guy to come off the edge, right? Maybe he's guarding like the slot receiver, and then he just comes straight for the quarterback, right? Maybe from his blind side something, and he really puts him under duress. I could see him in some positions like that. I know he's a little bit undersized, if I'm not mistaken, but he's another guy who I'm looking to see if he's making strides or not in training camp, because as of right now, I don't know if it's a guarantee that he makes the team. You know what I mean? He's gonna have to show me some stuff in training camp, or show the coaches some stuff in training camp, and then probably preseason as well. Because I mean, this DB room, and you can never have too many DBs, so he probably will end up making the team. But anyways, uh, outside of Marlowe, Cheeto, um, uh, uh, Nate, you know what I'm saying? You also got TJ Tampa, and then you've got Hukone Longerbeam. So there's a lot more DBs in the tuck where it's like not just a given that Chandler makes it, but if he can show some stuff that he can kind of be like that, almost like that gadget corner, then yeah, I think he can definitely be somebody to watch out for. Let me see. Don DeWan says anybody's rookie. I don't care how good they were. I have to see them put work in while the NFL to give them a fair assessment. That's a fact. Preseason will tell a lot. It'll tell a lot this year. There was also Kyle Hamilton saying, I didn't mention this yesterday. Kyle Hamilton saying that Lamar Jackson looks natural operating from under center and has been selling play action fakes aggressively and appeared faster during the opening practice. And see, that's something right there. That's something right there that I think is going to be lethal this season. Imagine this. Imagine this. And you know what? Let me take a sip of coffee. Anywho, imagine this. I'm going to go back to the play action. Play action boots. Can you imagine if Lamar Jackson has his burst back and he is faking like he's going to not hand Derrick Henry the ball, and he boots out to his left or right, whatever, and he has that burst, that initial burst, right? What's that going to do? Because play action is all about misdirection. So what's that burst going to do? It is going to terrify the middle linebackers, and it's going to get them to shift their feet going to Lamar Jackson's direction, because you have to worry about Lamar Jackson on the perimeter. You can't just put one guy out there. So if it's not a naked boot, you can't just put one guy out there on an island one-on-one with Lamar. I think I said this yesterday on Coach's channel too. You can't do that. So the linebackers have to keep their eyes in the backfield for an extra second. And if Lamar has that burst, that split second right there, that'll have them shift their feet. Okay, let me make sure that I'm over this way to make sure Lamar Jackson does not, run up the field on us and we can't get to him. But then he hands it to Derrick Henry, though. Now you're late getting to the other side of the field to stop Derrick Henry. Now you've got a convoy headed towards you, guys on the outside like Durham Smythe blocking. Maybe you have Venga pulling, right? Maybe you have, goodness. And then, by the way, having bigger body wide receivers on the outside like Elijah Surratt and Jacoby Lane, as long as they can be physical, right? Which we know Elijah Surratt, he can as well. Jacoby Lane, we'll see. But as long as they can be physical out there, the blocking on the outside for Derrick Henry just got better. It just got better. I know we lost Pat Ricard, and that sucks. That sucks. But I think the blocking is going to be a lot better, especially on the outsides. C Iron, what's going on? Salute to you, brother. God's favorite says PA will be king this season. Absolutely. If Lamar has the same burst in the Bills game, good luck with an on paper better O-line. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That threat of Lamar Jackson's legs. And people been downplaying it all off season. Oh, can he still run? Does he still have that burst in his legs? We saw it in the Bills game week 1, like you said. We saw it in that Bills game week 1. So we really have no reason to believe that he's lost that completely. Yeah, he was banged up a little bit last season, but every quarterback has seasons where they're banged up. It happens. It's the NFL. Okay. So, yeah. I can't wait, man. Smythe, Venga pulling, Randall lead blocking, fingers crossed. Lane at point of attack, Henry to the cribby. Absolutely, Drift. Absolutely. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, man. Derrick Henry, man, especially early in the season, I cannot wait to see some of those big runs that he's about to rip off on these teams, man. What's your biggest concern overall? Says Hot Boy. What's going on, Hot Boy? Biggest concern overall, I'd say, honestly, that's a good question. Because I was gonna say tight ends, which I'll probably stick with that, only because as of right now, of course, we know Matthew Hibner didn't have a great day yesterday. Didn't hear much about Quavis. Mark Andrews, whatever he's gonna offer us in year whatever it is for Mark Andrews. I think year 9 or 10. Um, we'll just have to see. But last year, having Isaiah Likely, Lamar Jackson had two weapons at the tight end position that he loves to throw to. Now, without that, who's going to fill that void? Because Durham Smythe is not going to be Isaiah Likely, right? And if Matthew Hibner or Josh Cuevas don't step up and step up early, you know, it's kind of going to force Lamar Jackson a little bit out of his comfort zone, just a little bit, right? Because he's used to having those reliable big body targets at tight end and having them both on the field at the same time. But that's why I'm looking towards like maybe Jacoby Lane can start to be that. Now, Jacoby Lane, of course, will be playing on the outside. Isaiah Likely played a little bit more on the inside, but I could still see Lamar Jackson utilizing Jacoby Lane in a similar way to how he did not Mark Andrews, but Isaiah Likely. Because they're bigger body targets, longer targets. Okay, if he's one-on-one with a guy, I'm just going to throw it up to him. Hell, even if he's 2-on-1, I trust him to go up and get that ball. You know what needs to happen right now is conversations between the players and agreements, handshake deals. Because that's what Isaiah Likely did for Lamar Jackson. He went up to him in practice and said, "Hey, Lamar." Lamar said, "What's up, Likely?" Likely said, if you throw me the ball and I'm covered or maybe even double covered, I promise you, I'm either going to catch that ball, like I'm going to come down with it, or I'm going to make sure nobody else comes down with it. So I'm going to try to make a play, but I'm also going to protect you as well. I'm not just going to give up on a ball and let somebody, intercept it, whatever. And Lamar Jackson said, "Oh, word?" And Likely said, "Yeah. So throw me the damn ball." Lamar said, "All right, bet." So from then on, you could see Lamar Jackson was throwing up some crazy passes to Isaiah Likely. You guys remember all the crazy ones, all the cross body passes, all the, deep down the field, all the ones where he's double covered. Hell, the last Lamar Jackson completion of last season, where he goes to Isaiah Likely on that 4th and 7 against the Steelers. I mean, he had two guys in coverage there, and Isaiah Likely comes down with it. Maybe Jacoby Lane can be that guy, but if he's not, and there's not another tight end that can step up and be that guy, that would concern me. So that's my biggest concern, Hot Boy. Let me see. I really want to see the different D line packages Minner is going to have out there. No, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I think that you're probably going to see a lot of 3-4. You're going to see a lot of that. Um, it'll be interesting to see the rotations for the D linemen because I'm excited to see guys like Calais. I am, as old as he is, man. I just think that he's still dominant. He would have led this Ravens team in sacks last year. He had 6.5 sacks. I mean, our sack leader, Travis Jones, had 5.5. Um, and then also, like I mentioned earlier, he's just got the size to kind of clog up those passing lanes over the middle. So, like, even if he's not beating his man in the interior towards the quarterback, he can still get his hands up, right, and disrupt passing lanes. And that's huge. That's huge for me. And then also you got John Jenkins, who did not practice yesterday for an undisclosed reason. So we'll continue to monitor that. But John Jenkins had himself a nice season last year. He just doesn't really, he's not like a force on the inside. I see him as more of like a rotational guy. But when you bring him in and he's fresh, maybe he'll be more effective. But that's why Nnamdi Madubuike coming back is huge. And Travis Jones, of course, once he heals from that pec injury, him coming back will be huge as well. There's gonna be a lot of times where you see two down linemen, right? Or maybe you see uneven fronts, and there's gonna be a lot of different things that Jesse Minter throws at opposing offenses. And again, a lot of those younger quarterbacks that we play in the beginning of the season aren't going to be able to deal with it. So it's literally like the perfect ramping up process, ramping up period for this new Ravens team. That's what I'll say. Thea Pennell says, "Would you sign Stephon Diggs if the price is right?" As of right now, Thea Pennell, nah. I'm good on Stephon Diggs. I'm good on Stephon Diggs right now. I don't need, um, you know, I just don't need that in the locker room. I don't need that. If you're gonna go out and get any wide receiver, just go get D Hop. Just go bring D Hop back. D Hop shows you he's still got a lot in the tank, in terms of like contested catchability. He may not be able to separate worth a damn. However, on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, you need him to run a quick out and have sure hands and pick up that first down. Lamar Jackson, he found out quick, fast, and in a hurry that D-Hop was that guy. He did. So I'd love to bring him back, and plus he'd be a great mentor for Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt, which I think is invaluable, right? Why not do everything in your power to try to develop these 3rd and 4th round wide receivers? Why not do everything? I mean, the value kind of pays for itself. D-Hop's contract would literally pay for itself just in how much value he's going to bring the team in terms of Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. It's a no-brainer for me. Stephon Diggs, I get it. He's the more proven guy at this point in his career, but I just, in 1,000 yards last season, but at the same time, he's not going to get 1,000 yards here. Why? Because he's not going to get 6+ targets. He had the same target share that Zay Flowers had last season, or the same targets per game. They both had 6. But here, he's not going to be the wide receiver 1. He'd be the wide receiver 2. And again, by the way, on a run-first team, he'd be the wide receiver 2, but Lamar Jackson is already familiar with Rashad Bateman. He's already familiar with Tez Walker. So he's not going to get nearly enough targets to be as effective as a lot of you guys think he would be. And I don't think that contract pays for itself, much like what I said with D-Hop. Okay. So no, I wouldn't sign Stephon Diggs. Asmodeus, another member in the chat. What's going on, Asmodeus? Says, what are you doing up right now? Hey, man, I had to get some things off my chest. There were some things I didn't talk about in yesterday's episode of Quiet Storm that I want to get to this morning before we kick off day 2 of training camp, which, of course, we'll be covering throughout the day as well. Listen, if you're just getting in here, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You're watching Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, covering all things Baltimore Ravens every damn day. God's Favorite says, I miss Likely. I really do, but hopefully our next helps us forget about our ex. Yeah. Kind of same thing with like Minter and Harbaugh, right? But I feel like we've already kind of moved past. We mentally broke up with John Harbaugh like 3 years ago. Like the relationship was just like already on the outs. Like we already knew that like we didn't want to be here anymore. I think that John Harbaugh probably knew the same. So I think we were already over him. But likely leaving and then going to the Giants with Harbaugh, that did kind of sting. That did kind of hurt because I really liked Isaiah Likely. He's a beast. And he's now a top 5 paid tight end in the league. Let me see. Asmodeus says you're streaming like a madman. Didn't you do back-to-back yesterday? Yeah, I did, man. But the season's back. This is what we do. So as long as y'all tune in for me, I'm going to continue to do this. So I appreciate everybody for coming through and supporting the channel. I know it's been a very long off season. I know we haven't had much to talk about, especially in recent weeks. We're just talking about a bunch of lists and other nasty stuff. But now we're back. We're back at it. The news cycle is fully back on the train tracks. So we're back at it, Asmodeus. Love it. Just make sure you take care of yourself. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I got my wonderful lady helping me out with that as well. By the way, happy hour stream tomorrow, chat. Friday nights, we do happy hour streams. Myself and sometimes Coach joins me. He'll be joining me tomorrow night where we sit on stream. We talk Ravens and we sip a little something. It's always a lot of fun. The truth comes out inevitably. Let me see. Facts on it. We were mentally checked out from Harbs a while ago. That's a fact. Okay. Let me see. What else did we have? Let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh yeah. So Jesse Minter confirmed he will call the defensive plays himself. We already knew that. He said Anthony Weaver will remain heavily involved as defensive coordinator, but Minter will control the calls on game day. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of like a similar situation to what Declan Doyle did in Chicago, where like he's kind of building the offense, in this case, in Anthony Weaver's case, building the defense, presenting it to Jesse Minter. I'm sure they'll have multiple meetings throughout the weeks by themselves and just kind of go over things. Like Jesse Minter will look at the plays and everything that Anthony Weaver has designed. He'll pick out what he likes, what he doesn't like, all that good stuff. And then on game days, you'll have Jesse Minter being the one who ultimately has the uh, end all be all say so in terms of what calls get made. But I'm really looking at Anthony Weaver as being like a motivator of men, on top of being able to scheme up the defense, because that's going to be part of it, a huge part of his job. But being a motivator of men and like keeping those guys locked in on the sideline, because when you have to call plays, like you have to be focused like on the field like constantly, you know. But I really want Anthony Weaver, and I'm hoping that he's on the sidelines, walking up and down those sidelines, coaching guys up individually, right? And just holding guys accountable, all that good stuff. Riling up his defense while Jesse Minter kind of takes helm of the ship. Hell, if you ask me, I want all my coordinators on the sideline. Declan Doyle, too. Declan was asked about that. He said he's going to try both, being on the sideline and being up in the box, but I prefer him on the sideline. I would. I would. I would. Let me see. Drift Sports says PRP, both backgrounds are good. Switch is cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I had to do something different for the new season, you know? So Jesse will be holding the laminated sheet? Yes. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Now, this is what I wanted to get to next from God's favorite. And by the way, good morning, Flex Zone. Appreciate you for coming through. But God's favorite says here, I love that Jesse Minter and Lamar are going to have regular meetings to pick each other's brain and what each is seeing from their point of view. Yes. That right there means everything to me. Because, and I'm surprised that, well, actually, I'm really not surprised that they weren't doing this before, because John Harbaugh, of course, is a special teams coach. So what value is he really going to bring to Lamar Jackson in one-on-one like film study and stuff like that without having somebody else, like a real offensive mind in the room as well? But Jesse Minter meeting up with Lamar Jackson one-on-one, and Jesse Minter being that defensive genius and Lamar Jackson being a supreme offensive weapon and talent, those two together going in, like Jesse Minter is going to go to Lamar and be like, "Hey, look, I'm seeing the current trends of defenses in the NFL, and I feel like this is what is going to be thrown at you. So because I know that, I'm going to communicate that with you earlier, sooner rather than later, so you're not blindsided by anything. Because I know defense, and you know offense. So we're going to collaborate here and kind of pick each other's brains and see what works for us, what doesn't work for us, what might be coming up. You know, and I think that's just going to develop the relationship between and the trust between Jesse and Lamar that much quicker. That much quicker. I can't wait till we get, quick sidebar, I cannot wait till we get our first Lamar Jackson and Jesse Minter moment. Like, you guys remember when Lamar and John Harbaugh had that moment in that Seahawks game in 2019, where Jesse Minter asked Lamar Jackson if he wants to go for it, like near the goal line. And Lamar says, "Hell yeah, coach, let's go for it." Right. And then he goes out and scores. And that was just like a beautiful moment. It was like the birth of like a great quarterback and coach connection. Now, of course, that connection went stale just a couple of years later, but I can't wait to see Jesse Minter have that first moment with Lamar where it's like, you know, we bet on ourselves and it worked. And, you know, now we trust each other that much more. Like the trust goes through the roof. I can't wait for that. Cannot wait. Let's go. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Let me keep going through here. Make sure we did not miss nothing. So speaking of tight ends, I didn't mention this, but Mark Andrews reportedly had a couple of drops during practice as well. And it's only day one, but it's worth mentioning as one of the more surprising observations. And that is very surprising. That is very pretty surprising, you know, because Mark Andrews, again, if we don't have a reliable tight end on this team this season, If we don't have a reliable tight end, that could be scary. That could be scary. Like if you're really just relying on Zay Flowers, and teams come out and they say, "Hey, look, we're going to take away Zay. We're going to make somebody else beat us." Mark Andrews has to be that guy to step up. Bateman as well. But Mark Andrews as the elder statesman in that tight end room and the de facto tight end one, he needs to be reliable for Lamar. Don't let Lamar get to a point where he can no longer, or he feels like he can no longer trust you. That would scare me. That would scare me. So early drops from Mark Andrews. He's another guy. Again, close magnifying glass on today. What are you going to do to bounce back, Mark? What are you going to do to bounce back? I need to see it. I need to see it. All right. Let's see here. What else do we have? My bad, guys. I was looking at some stuff on Twitter about Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel talking to each other. Apparently, there's a clip that is going around right now. I won't play it because it's like on Paramount or whatever, so it'll probably end up getting copyrighted. But I'm sure that conversation between Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel was pretty quirky, to say the least, to say the absolute least. So yes, before I wrap up the stream, guys, I do want to say this. Biggest things I'm looking for in today's training camp are the tight ends to bounce back, right? Rashad Bateman to stack days. And I'm also looking for, I'd say, who in the secondary is going to get that first interception, right? Who's going to get that interception? Now, Lamar Jackson's been dialed in, so it might be nobody. But I do want to see somebody start to separate themselves in that secondary too. Now, like I said earlier, guys, we will be live later today at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to recap day 1 and day 2 of Ravens training camp. It'll be me and my co-host Simply AS10, Alex. So make sure you tune in for that. Set your alarm clocks for that. The link for that stream will be up soon, probably around like midday, to be honest with you. So yeah, come through. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new and you enjoyed the content. And good morning to everybody again, or good afternoon, whenever you might be listening to this. Have a great day, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
You're watching Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe for more Ravens content.